What's going on, everybody? James here, redemptionagency.com. 23 years selling full-time on eBay. And I'm just sitting here listing today, and I just got to thinking, somebody just made a comment on my Facebook post about, what seems to be going on with their account today and the problems, right? And as someone who's always trying to give out advice and systems and just to help, I'm like, well, what would my answer be to this, right? And it's just this. It's that there's no rhyme or reason to the website anymore. eBay is just a mess. There's no rhyme or reason. There's no, just when you think one thing is working one way, it changes, right? Just because of an update or a change, and then something else breaks, and there's no rhyme or reason. So my answer would probably just be, let's keep it simple. Meaning, we can't keep overthinking it, and that's why I got away with trying to do that. So the next step would be just saying, keep it simple, all right? Keep listing, obviously, that's simple. That's something we can control. Just list, just keep listing, keep pounding that stuff out. If you have death piles or whatever, just keep it going up. Another thing would be just make sure you're using all the tools that seem to help things move, whether that's an algorithm base and or a consumer base. What I mean by that is sales. Do sales help the algorithm? It's hard to say, but does it help move things? Yes, because of the psyche of humans. It's just a known fact that if you say something's on sale, it can spark somebody to buy something as opposed to it not being on sale. Just kind of like the way pricing works. I remember reading many years ago that pricing your items at a 99% makes it, in the human mind, look cheaper. So if you're doing like rounded off numbers, $15, $10, scratch that. Go $9.99, go $14.99. There is research out there to prove that is more effective to the consumer than rounded off numbers. So there's another simple idea to help you, okay? Obviously, I'm just trying to go off the top of my head here, so I'm not going to think about everything. And you may have things that I don't mention in this video, so if you do that, please put them below and help with just simple solutions to make sure that you are doing to cover your end of the business, right? We can't cover eBay's end with the infrastructure of the website. We can't even figure it out these days. So cover your end on everything. So list, use the sales, use the promotions. So you're going to have to, whether you like it or not, you have to promote on eBay these days, or you're not going to get any sales. Now, instead of worrying about what other people are promoting at to be competitive, think about what's the most you can do. Knowing your numbers, what you have in costs as compared to, what your items sell for. You just got to know your numbers, because if you promote too high, if you spend too much on advertisement, it can sink you on eBay. When you have like big companies who have millions of dollars of budget for advertising, and that's what promoting on eBay is these days. It's just a form of advertising. When you have these big companies who can spend millions of dollars on promotions, it's driving people to their store, right? But they can afford that because they're a more massive company. They have higher sales, et cetera, et cetera. But they know how much they can allocate to say, a campaign for 2025. You need to be doing the same thing. What are my numbers? What's my profit margin on these items? What can I get away with? See, and the beauty about promoting is you can always back out of it. You can always go back down. So if you're stuck in that under 5 promotion, that's all you want to give eBay, you got to dump that mindset, because that mindset is not constructive to the growth of your business, because you're using personal emotion to run your business, and that's not a good thing. So work out your numbers and figure out what it takes. So if you can go, okay, I can get away with doing 10%, right? As opposed to you were doing 5. Bump it up to that 10% and then see if your numbers grow. And that's the beauty of it. You can go back down to 5% if it doesn't work, but put it up there if it works for you and see if your numbers grow. See if your income, your net money in your pocket grows. That being said, you have to give it longer than a week. It usually takes at least 48 hours to really go into effect. And then, so you got to give it a little bit of time. You can't just do it on a day-by-day basis. Well, today I'm doing 10, tomorrow I'll do 5, the next day I'm doing 6, the next day I'm doing, you can't do it. You have to give it time. So I would say give it a good 2 weeks and see if your net money increases. Now your gross could increase, sure, but you're also paying more in fees. So you'd want to pay attention to that net number. Is the net increasing into your account? Because if the gross is going up, but the net is not quite, if the net's just about the same as it was before, meaning your gross went up a little bit, but your net didn't go up at all, then go back down to 5, right? But if your gross goes up and your net goes up and that net is worth it, then boom, you've got more sales, and it's just something simple that you can control to help your business. Social media sharing, the whole sending out emails. If you don't know how to do that, if you go to marketing, you click on marketing, you have the social media thing where you can hook up a social media link, and you have the buyers groups. So you create a buyer group, which can be I do all 3. There's followers, there's customers under 30 days or 60 days, whichever, and then there are customers over that 30 or 60 days. I make one for each, and I send them out whatever coupon I am, or whatever sale or coupon that is going on. What that does is sends an email to all those people into their inboxes. It's basically an email list, and it's the closest we've got to one of the most successful tools a business can have. Like if you run your own website and a shopper comes there, you got all their information, so you can send out emails regularly, as we know it as spam, if you will, of these websites. But if it's something that you enjoy and you like, it's not technically spam, is it? What? Lego has a sale going on? Let me click Lego, and boom, boom, boom. So with customers who have shopped with you before, they shopped with you for a reason. So hopefully whatever's in that email will trigger some of them to say, oh, let me check out and see what this person's doing, and this person's on sale, whatever the case may be. So use those email notifications, the email list, basically, to promote your store. It's a free tool. Take full advantage of everything you can for free. So the sales, promotions, when it comes to the sales, I would suggest, like, say you put everything on at 20%. Instead of doing that, you might want to try putting it on 10% and then putting a 10% coupon. The difference is on the coupons, when you look up something online, you'll see the coupon in red. Like the last thing I just looked up was a George Clinton CD. it's on sale for 8% off, but they have this big old red spot right over their name that says $15 off 150 with coupon. So utilize both of them. If you only put stuff on at 10%, do a 5% coupon and a 5% sale. You'll take advantage of both of those visual stimulants that go, ooh, sale, ooh, sale. So I would recommend using both of them. Trying to think what else I do. Another little thing I've talked about before is if you get bad or negative feedback, there are some people, probably a very little percentage that would still, but you know what, you're going for everybody here. Still a very little percentage that probably looks at feedback and makes their decisions off of that. But if you're a newer seller and you got very little feedback, just one negative can drop your 100% down to 93%, right? So what you want to do to offset that is go into your negative, respond to it, not immediately, because when you do it immediately, that's usually fueled by emotions, and you don't want to respond to negative feedback when it's fueled by emotions. So read it, take it in, sit on it for an hour, 2 hours, whatever you need. Come back in and make a professional statement to that. Now, here's the thing. You've got to, when you respond to it, you're at fault. Even if you're not. And we know there are situations where you're not at fault. It could be the postal service, which technically you are responsible for because you handed them your package. So they work for you. So technically you are responsible for that. Instead of going in and doing, say, an attack, you go in with a sympathy. I'm so sorry you had this problem. I'm going to reach out to you to fix this situation. Something of that nature, that's real simple right there. So if somebody does come in and look at your feedback, they know you're at least trying to fix the problem as opposed to just ignoring it. If you're just ignoring it, that's going to rub some people the wrong way. You're trying to go for everybody you can. You're trying to get as many people as you can to shop your store. Let me go in one of mine, give you the kind of tips that I get. Like, I got a record high of 5 this month, right? I put in there things like always contact the seller if you have an issue. Most of us on eBay will take care or guarantee or take care of our customers. So something in that field. If you have free returns, you can put that in there. I do. I go, most of us have free returns and will guarantee the items we sell. So you're giving somebody who may read this hope that, well, if they do buy from you and they have a problem, you're not just going to ignore it. You're going to take care of the problem. And then, of course, I put, we'll reach out to this buyer and figure out what the problem is. That was that one. But we'll reach out to this buyer and fix the situation. So if you're turning a negative into a positive is what you're doing. So it may look negative on your account, but to somebody who's reading it, it's going to look positive because you're stepping up to the plate. You're taking responsibility for that problem, and you're going to fix that problem. Even if it's somebody you've already dealt with who was a pain in the ass, you went back and forth and there was no helping them at all, and they come in and leave a negative, you still leave that same type of response because that's at least good. It's not about what that person did. What that person did is done and over with. What you're got to be concerned with is how many people's going to read that and be potentially future customers. So what you are doing is making a response for those people. You're not making a response for that buyer. You're making a response for your store, that future customer, and making sure that you don't scare them off. That's what you do. The person leaving the negative's already done something that may scare them off by leaving that negative. Your job is to counter that, to balance that out, to basically turn that negative into a neutral. That person, whoever's reading it, is not going to be affected by whatever that negative statement is because you are stepping up. You are saying sorry for the issues. You could even put something more of a human based in there if that's your thing. Like, I'm sorry, we're all human. I'm not perfect, but I will fix the problem. So, you got to be compassionate, but you're basically trying to. I always talk about the fishing line. That's just a fishing line you're throwing out there to attract somebody who may base their buying from you off of the feedback. What's next? Let me see if I can think of anything else to make sure you're utilizing. Don't be, and I've said this before, and I don't do this enough. Don't be afraid to make YouTube videos for advertising purposes. So even if you're not want to be in the spotlight, your face, even if you're one of those, an introvert type of person and don't want to put yourself out there, there are ways you can put your stuff out there that you are selling or your store. You can make a goofy commercial that attracts a certain type of people. Say you sell tons of plush. So who's to say you can't make a stupid little goofy video with two plushes doing a crazy little argument back and forth, right? And you just put it out there. Because you never know if something you say is so funny that thing goes viral, right? And people all over the world are watching it. But the trick is to make sure within that you're promoting your eBay store so that if that video does go viral, guess what? You've got 100,000 people who may be clicking into your eBay store and may buy something. So there's another little tip. Like, I don't do enough of those videos. When I had that separate channel just doing like flip videos and things with the media, I mean, the numbers were crazy on those videos. So I don't do that enough. So that's another, actually, I haven't went and checked that in a while. Let me go check that. I haven't been on my old accounts in a while. Switch accounts. I believe that was the Urban Picker account. Let me go into, let's see, 2.7, 3.3, 19,000. I don't even get 19,000 views on videos on this channel, but a DVD, new arrival DVD flip video got 19,000 views. 1.6, 1.4, 1.1. And this is with 600 subscribers, 669 subscribers. So you never know what can take off and drive business to your store. Take advantage of that. And then there's always other little things like, which those cost money, like Facebook ads, YouTube ads. So that's only if you're already in the positive and you just want to grow some more. But take advantage of all those free tools out there to help drive traffic to your store. I'm sure there's plenty of other little tips and tricks that I'm not thinking of, so I'll just leave it at that for now. That's some of them to start with. Make sure you're just using them all to some extent, that it's going to at least try to give you a little bit of a better advantage than what you had the day before. And that's what it boils down to. Just always keep learning and trying to better your situation. And I think that's more important than people who say, well, make sure all your item specifics are filled out correctly and things like that. Sure, that might have some impact, but also that depends on the type of stuff you're selling. When it comes to clothes and shoes, that's probably an important piece. When it comes to media, probably not so much, because most people just type in what they want and buy the first or the cheapest. So depending on what you sell will dictate that situation there. Yeah, that's about all I got right now that I can think of off the top of my head. So there you go. Just some little tips to try to up your situation. Another thing I use to help drive traffic, as I said, everything's just another line in the water trying to get people into your store. People in like big businesses, say like a Best Buy used to do, they would use loss leaders to bring people to drive traffic into their store. So they would sell things like if there's new release CDs are on sale, chances are they were losing money on those items, but that's just to get people into the store. And of course, this is back in the day, obviously. But you can go another route to do that, like I do, and I got more stuff to do it with. But say you have a collection of stuff that's decent value. You don't want to sell it, but you can use that item to drive traffic to your store. If you have like I should put my Ben 23s up. I'd be sad if they sold. Like they're getting ready to release a new Jordan Ben. Ben is like a high quality Jordan. I have a pair that's probably worth about $1,500. I could look to see what they're actually selling for now, put my pair in my store, but price it at $2,500. If they're selling at $1,500, I price it at $2,500. A price that chances are it's not going to sell. But hey, if it did sell, I can live with it because guess what? I'm gonna go buy me a pair for $1,500, and that puts $1,000 in my pocket, so to speak. Not counting fees, obviously. So you can use some of your own personal stuff that may be more desirable than what you're selling as a fishing line in the water to pull people into your store. Because you're going to get people who go, and why the hell who's this person trying to sell these shoes for $2,500? But their curiosity is already on point. So they're going to click on the listing, and they'll probably click into your store to see what other crazy stuff you are trying to sell for overpriced. But guess what? Everything else in there is not crazy overpriced. So who's to say they won't trip on something and go, oh, dude, I like that. I could use that. I've been wanting that. That's pretty cheap. I'm going to grab that. It's possible. Everything's possible when it comes to that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's another one. Because I had all kinds of stuff in my, like the top rows are my personal stuff. I've gotten rid of some things I didn't necessarily want to, but people paid me over retail price for them. So you know what? I sold them, and I could have went back and rebought it if I wanted to and still made money on top of it. But you know what? If it's don't have a great emotional attachment to me, I'm not worried about it. So if I ever really want it back again one day, I'll just do it. Buy it then. So, okay. Now I think that was my last thought. All right. I'm done. All right. Thanks, everybody. Hope you guys have a good weekend. I'm sure I'll pop up somehow, some way on the channel one way or another. So thanks, everybody. I'll see you all in the next video. Later.